Dear students, Assalamu alaikum. I am your teacher, Mrs. Aqsa Kanwal, Assistant Professor of English from Government Degree College for Women, Dubai Mahal Road, Bahawalpur. I welcome you all in this online lecture and wish you joyous and safe summer vacation. Dear students, our today's lecture is the poem number 13, which is Because I Could Not Stop for Death by Emily Dickinson. In this poem, the poetess Emily Dickinson talks about death with a soft and gentle approach. Death here appears as a lover who gently requests for the company of the poetess, and she, like a beloved, readily accepts his offer and sits with him for the ride towards eternity. Now let us see how this idea is in detail elaborated in the poem. Stanza number 1. Because I could not stop for death, he kindly stopped for me. The carriage held but just ourselves and immortality. Let us now start his paraphrasing. The very first line suggests the busy routine of human beings as we start our worldly chores since the morning to evening, but we never spare ourselves to think about death or to feel as if we are waiting for death. In this way, the poetess says that she did not wait for the death, but the death kept waiting for the fixed time to come, and when the allotted time came, the death approached her. And the death's manner were so gentle and kind that the poetess at once left all her business and sat in the carriage brought by the death. There was no other passenger in the carriage except the poetess and the death, and their journey was towards immortality. They were moving beyond this mortal world. Stanza number 2. We slowly drove. He knew no haste, and I had put away my labor and my leisure too, for his civility. In this stanza, the speed of the journey is described. The poetess says that their carriage was moving so slowly, the death was unaware of making a haste, and he was behaving in so civilized way that the poetess put away, or she brushed all her routine works aside and accepted the company of death with eager heart. Emily Dickinson was actually brought up in a very religious family, and her religious beliefs were so strong. That is why we don't see any element of fear or frustration or confusion on the arrival of death. Rather, she happily accepted his company, as the beloved is ever ready for the call by a lover. Death for the poetess is not something unknown. Rather, she greets him like a beloved, so does not show any displeasure on his arrival. This is our third stanza, which says, We passed the school where children strove at recess in the ring. We passed the field of gazing grain. We passed the setting sun. In this stanza, the poetess tells us about the different stages of their journey. And apparently, these are the three places, but symbolically they suggest something else. The first place they came was the school, where children were playing at break time in a leisurely manner. This place is a symbol of childhood, one of the early stages of every man's life, which passes in a carefree manner. And the next stage of their journey was the field they passed through, and the field of the gazing grain is a symbol of an adulthood. Gazing grain is the ripened grain, which is fully grown to maturity. In this way, the adulthood is the stage when the man's energy is at its peak, and the third place that came in their way was the setting sun. The setting sun is a symbol of old age. Hence, the images of the school, the gazing grain, and the setting sun are metaphors for the three main stages of a man's life: the childhood, the youth, and the old age, after which a man meets his end. Stanza number 4. Or rather, he passed us. The dews grew quivering and chill, for only gossamer my gown my tippet only two. The main idea of this stanza is the feeling of the poetess during the journey. First line of the stanza links us to the previous stanza where she mentioned that they passed the setting sun. Here in the first line, she refers to the sun as he, saying, or rather, he passed us. Just notice, students, that she is not using the pronoun it for the sun, but saying that he passed us. She reminds us that she and death are the lifeless things now. Further, as they passed the sun, the warmth of the worldly life was left behind, and she started feeling cold because of the cold dew drops that fell on her. She says that she was not dressed in warm clothes. Rather, she was dressed in a gown which was made of gossamer, which is a fine, thin fabric and does not stop the sensation for cold. And her tippet, which is the headscarf, is also made up of tulle, which is again a very thin fabric. Here, poetess actually feels the coldness of death. Stanza number 5, and I read it now. We paused before a house that seemed a swelling of the ground. The roof was scarcely visible, the cornice in the ground. In this 5th stanza, the poetess elaborates her destination, that their journey stopped near the house, which was like a swelling of the ground. It means that it was a place with a little high up, as it did not have a proper roof. Rather, it looked like a cornice, which was an outward projection in the ground. It was actually a grave where the poetess was buried. Students, now we are moving to the last 6th stanza of this poem. I read it now. Since then, 'tis centuries, and yet feels shorter than the day. I first surmised the horses' heads were towards eternity. The last stanza of the poem takes us out of the concept of time and space. The poetess says that the centuries have passed after she is engraved, but it seems shorter than the day. Now she realized that the horses which were harnessed in the coach or buggy were taking her towards eternity. Here our poem ends, and I hope you would have understood it. In the end, I say you thank you, with the hope that you would have understood it. Take care. Allah Hafiz.